Meera was a wonderful host when we were there at the Washington, D.C. South Asian International Film Festival. And she, I think, besides being such a gracious host and taking me around, she took me to the Hanuman temple, and it was a wonderful experience, great bliss and great peace. And I could never thank her enough for that. And I always remember that. And we still have the anchal that was there on the deity, and we have it here, and I do my daily prayers with that. So once again, thank you, Meera, for your wonderful, the time that you spent together.
Yeah, Meera ji is amazing. Meera ji is very super helpful, and she's always guiding us and always there if anybody needs any help.
Thank you, thank you. I was just going to say, you have to come back, sir. Because
Yeah,
you're bringing a bigger Hanumanji now.
I know, I saw that, and as soon as you guys select my film for the next festival, I'll be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Waiting for your next film debut.
Yeah, it's very much there. So waiting for the things to clear before we get going with the festivals.
Now, is your paperback available in the US?
Yes, it will be available from the 15th of July. The pre-booking on Amazon has started. Let me do a little plugging in. That's the book, Once Upon a Prime Time. And it's all about my journey of 38 years on Indian television. And it also involves filmmaking, because a lot of filmmakers were making television. So there's a lot of overlap between film and television on this. So, that's the book. So if anybody is interested, so they could go on to Amazon and pre-book it. 15 July is the launch.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'll come back. I'll mute myself, but thank you. It's great to see you. And I'll have a question when Sonny allows me to.
Yeah, I mean, we will first, the format of this particular call is going to be that I'm going to introduce Mr. Mahadevan first. And then after that, we will allow for him to speak about his journey. And then we will take questions. There are some questions that we have pre-screened. And after that, we're going to take a few questions from the audience. And I think that will be the time that we will be, taking his leave again, right?
Where's Haider? Why is Haider hiding behind a black curtain?
That only he can answer.
He was the guy responsible for getting me here. So he
was the guy responsible for getting. So maybe he can say hello at least.
Yeah, unmute him.
Haider, he's unmuted already.
What is he doing?
Haider? I'm not sure.
I guess he hasn't got out of bed yet.
Not yet. I actually called him like 10 minutes ago and he was still like, why are you calling me this early? I said, dude, it's 11 o'clock already.
Sonny, you have to sing Jago Sone Walo.
He might just sing so beautifully that he might go back to sleep.
Good one.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I let everybody in. People are sending me messages. I'm not sure if Nam America is inside.
Hi, Vivek. Hi, Vivek. Hey, there you are. Hi. So
can you hear me?
Yeah,
can
I
you
can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah, yeah. What's that on your t-shirt?
Back in the day.
Great.
The pattern.
Good, good.
And now back in the day means just March 13th. Before that, we were not quarantined in the US.
Correct, correct.
There you go. That's Anand Rao in Nam America.
Hello, guys. I just came out on a hike. Hi, Ananth. How are you?
Hi. Namma America is Tamil. So should I start talking in Tamil?
Kannada.
Oh, Kannada.
So, Sonny, Ananji, I had met with you here at DC SAF when you were here.
Oh, okay.
Pleasure to be here. And of course, here, DC, I see Meera is here, and I'm also right here from DC. I will unfortunately have to, I just wanted to come say hi, and I might have to drop off the call, but I will definitely try to sign back in also.
Great, great.
Pleasure to see this group here.
Thank you. You have a good weekend.
Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So several people are messaging. I think all of these people are in. Okay. I'm not sure if Haider can still hear us or not. I can see that he's unmuted. And so if everybody else can just go on, I'm going to mute everybody and then I'm going to proceed. Okay. And I am just going to, okay, there are more people coming in. And all right. Excellent. So, sir, with your permission, shall we proceed? I will have to unmute. Can you unmute yourself, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir. So, with your permission, shall we proceed or shall we wait for others to come?
With the permission of all our guests here, I mean, I think you should ask them.
So, guys, show me your thumb if you want me to proceed. Okay. Excellent. I am going to, all right, here we go. I'm going to start now. Mr. Anant Mahadevan started his film career in the 1980s, having been an integral part of the Indian television serial and Hindi movies since the 1980s. He's also involved in professional English and Hindi theater. Mr. Mahadevan received the National Award for Best Film and Screenplay and Dialogue for the successful Marathi movie Mee Sindhutai Sapkal in 2010. His film Gour Dastaan was part of the Indian Panorama at the International Film Festival of India in 2014 in Goa, as well as the International Film Festival of Kerala, IFFK, the International Film Festival of Bangalore, the Film Festival of Chennai, as well as the NYIFF, the New York Indian Film Festival, all in 2014. His rough book created excitement in the festival circuit in the Film Bazaar in Goa, in Washington, D.C., and the Houston Indian Film Festival. My Ghat won for the Best Director and Best Actress in South Asian International Film Festival in 2019. He's played the role of Damodar in the movie Evening Shadows, which released in 2018. He has directed many movies in his career, some of which are as follows: The Rough Book, Dr. Ramabai, My Ghat, Gour Dastaan, Staying Alive, Mee Sindhutai Sapkal, Red Alert, The War Within. And as actor, 2.0 in Tamil, Evening Shadows in Hindi, Vishwarupam in Tamil and Hindi, The Expose, Staying Alive, Papanasam in Tamil, Khiladi, Bazigar, Badshah, Gardish, and Ishq. So let me start off this lovely interview by asking us to please tell us about your journey as an actor and director so we can get inspired.
Good God. Should I just read the book? Okay. That'll be
So
simpler.
sorry.
All right. Let me begin. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me clearly? Please just put the thumbs up if the sound is fine. The sound is clear. Yeah, thank you so much. That's a relief. All right. So, see, you get telltale signs, you know. I mean, for all those aspiring actors out there, let me tell you something. What you are looking at on your screens today in me is nothing less than a miracle, you know. I mean, we have medical miracles happening, but this is actually, you know, a performing arts miracle in front of you, because logically, I shouldn't be sitting here talking to all of you, because I really don't, you know, I don't consider myself part of a fraternity or I consider myself I still consider myself the odd man out, because somewhere something is not fitting in, and a lot of things should not have happened. But how did it happen, and what led to me being here, and you know, Sonny reading out all those the names of all those films. So let me start at the beginning. I'll tell you, there are, like I said, telltale signs. You know, when it started, I think, without my knowledge and realization and my being totally, in the subconscious. When I was in the kindergarten and we were in the play school area, and we were, given cubes and bricks to build. And I actually put up those cubes and made them building blocks. And I stood up on them and made it like a dais. And I started narrating stories to the kids over there. Now, what would a 5-year-old narrate? I mean, you can imagine it was probably totally gibberish and didn't make any sense at all. But looking back at it now, I realized that maybe it was all there, the seeds of, going out there, performing and entertaining people. And and it was strange because nobody in my family had it in their genes, or it wasn't something that I inherited. So it came naturally to me, and it went on all through school and all through my graduation process. With the inter-school or the inter-collegiate play theatre competition, and actually staging plays one every year. But what I always believed in was that art is as important to us as the sciences. But the sciences was what I wanted to be educated in. So I took up the sciences as my course of education, but I went into the arts self-teaching myself. And it was very strange because I hadn't seen a film till I was in the 6th grade. I hadn't obtained a radio to listen to the film songs till I was probably in the 9th grade, because my father was a very strict, strict disciplinarian, and he believed that all this would distract his son or his child from his studies. And what virtually happened was that I come back from school and I sit down and do my homework and work on the next day's thing, whilst all the other friends go out to play. And that became a routine, and that's probably where, the habit of hard work was inculcated in me. And in a way, I look at all the factors that kept me away from play and enjoying life as something very positive, or at least we turn it into a very positive factor. And right now, what I'm trying to tell all those people who are trying to get into the arts is that if you feel you have it in you, if you feel that you're not being allowed to do it, and if you feel that you're not in the right career path, and you are into something else and you want to get into this, there's still a chance to do it. I mean, but it depends on how badly you want to do it. And there are two factors to this: passion and compassion. Passion, if you do not have the passion, do not get into it. And compassion, because that is what makes you understand characters. That's what makes you understand people with whom you're going to work. And, you're also the people to whom you're going to convey your work, the audiences. So that's very important. And right at the beginning, let me say that I was fortunate enough for a hobby, a passion to get converted into a profession. Most of you may not. Most of you may be planning this as a career. So let me tell you, now let's start. I'm going to divide this into 3 small chapters. One is the entry point, your arrival, as they call it. The arrival, the actual, execution, and then finally the destination. So let me start with the arrival. If you're here for the glamour, the gloss, the money, the fame, and everything that you attach to show business, then you're here for the wrong reasons. That's not the reason why you should be here. You shouldn't be here because acting is a last resort. And that is what most of the people consider it, as a last resort, because that is the only profession where they do not ask you for a degree. They do not ask you for a qualification. You just declare yourself an actor. I am an actor. And no one asks you any questions, and there you are. So if that is the reason why you're here, because if nothing else succeeds, then there is always acting, then again, you're here for the wrong reason. And so what I'm trying to say is that if you have it in you, if you have the passion, if there's something driving you, telling you so badly that, yes, I need to go out there and perform. I need to sort of, get under the skin of some very difficult and challenging characters. And, or if you're a filmmaker, or if like Pooja, who's a choreographer, any of them who wants to be part of the industry in whatever category you think fit, whether you're an editor, you're a writer, you're a cameraman, you're a choreographer, or you're a production designer, in whatever field you want to sort of specialize, make sure that you love the arts. Make sure, sorry about that. Make sure that, I'm warning you, but I don't want to frighten you. The arts, as much as the scientists are going to hate it, is probably the most difficult thing to comprehend and to master. I would always say that the artist has to have, a 360-degree view of everything, and he can turn the book of rules on his head. Unlike the scientist or the mathematician who has to deduce everything scientifically, the formula has to be, worked out very scientifically. One wrong step, one wrong valency, or one wrong potency is going to spoil everything. But not necessarily in the performing arts. You can come up, you can improvise, and you can do something that is so genial that people should think, why the hell didn't we think of it, or how the hell did he do it? So that is the magic of the performing arts. And that is why it is more challenging and more difficult to actually master. And after 40 years of being in this profession, right through a lot of theater, I still do theater, television and films, both as an actor and as a director, I still feel that sitting in front of you, I am not talking to you like someone who is going to dictate a certain method of acting or teach someone something. I'm here as a co-student because I feel I'm still learning. I'm still grasping a lot of things. Excuse me. I'm still grasping a lot of elements in this field, and every day you end up discovering something new. Every new film set that you enter, you end up trying to perform different from what you've done. Do not, inculcate some mannerisms and develop them in such a way that when the audience sees you, they know that, oh, this is typical, typical him, so and so, or her. So that should not be the case. So when you get into this field, the arrival part is perhaps the most difficult part. When I went around telling people that I want to be an actor, and they said, oh yes, of course. And I could hear them, or maybe imagine them in my mind, sniggering, behind my back and saying, oh, this guy wants to be an actor. Because the general idea is that an actor has to be extremely good looking and extremely handsome, a Greek god, at least in Hindi films. That was, what it was at least about 10 or 15 years back, till a lot of people came and broke the norms and went on to making a performer more important than a star. So I could hear that and I could feel that, and I knew that I had to make it on my own. There is no one who is going to help me, hold my hand and say, come, let me lead you up the garden path, and there, right up there is, God himself, and there he's going to bless you and he's going to make you a star. So that's why I feel that, I was really the odd man out. I'm still the odd man out, and it was a fight against all odds. But I guess I have been very stubborn. I have been persevering to a fault, and I have been persisting. And like I said, somewhere the passion took over without me realizing it. And finally, when I did get my break on television, Sai Paranjpe watched my play and then she cast me. And then I realized that this first step is something that I should hold on to. This is something that I should not lose out on and build up on this. That was the first building block for me when I started my career. And I had to go on from there. And one has to be very, very careful because these steps are very slippery. These steps can bring you down. I mean, all of us have played that game in our childhood, Snakes and Ladders. You know, you keep going up, and suddenly you come down on number 98 because there's a snake over there. And that is what you have to guard against once you make it. So so once you arrive in, what you have to do is, to make sure that you substantiate what you are gaining, and don't ever lose confidence in yourself. You might start off with a small part, some small, insignificant part, some role of an extra standing behind in a crowd and just reacting. But don't be disappointed, because that is where you make your way through the crowd and you come to the front, the forefront, and prove to them that you're not part of the crowd. And you may be a face in the crowd, but you're not part of the crowd. And you have something in you that makes you stand apart from the others. You have certain positive elements in you that would make you a very interesting actor. And that is where you got to sort of, get a hold on, grasp, meet as many people as possible, see as many films as possible. My education was watching films and watching films and watching films. Films of every possible filmmaker across the world. And let me tell you, I am not talking about Hollywood or the Indian film scene, the Hindi film scene. I'm not using the word Bollywood. I think it's a bastardized term for the Indian film industry. I don't know who brought that into the country, but I will not use that term. So I watched a lot of films from people, from masters from France and Germany and the UK and Poland and Czechoslovakia, and of course Japan, Kurosawa, and of course the Russian greats like Eisenstein and Tarkovsky. And what I saw shook me up very, very badly. I almost wanted to stop it all, because considering the masterpieces that these people have made, even in the silent era, in the 1920s, 24, you watch these great films by German filmmakers and you wonder, where do you stand in India? We are light years behind international global cinema, the quality of global cinema. And that put me, that made me feel so small. But it also sort of urged me on to work harder, because I knew that I cannot afford not to prove to anybody in the world or anybody at large that I am a good filmmaker or I am a good actor, but just to prove to myself that we could raise our standards of performance or filmmaking, just to prove to myself that yes, I am capable, I have it in me, and I can do it. Of course, depending on a lot of other factors like producers, audiences, distribution, blah, 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 which I'll come to later. But the basic thing is that I go to sleep every night knowing that I know my job. I may be jobless, but I know my job. And that is a great feeling. And that is something you have to sleep with. And even if you do not have an assignment at the moment, and if you're confident about knowing your job, that is an asset that you're going to exploit in the days to come. Patience is one of the biggest virtues you have to develop. You may be sitting at home, you may be looking at people getting more successful than you, people who are less talented than you, but being more successful, earning more money than what you should have earned. No, don't let it rattle you. Don't get desperate. Don't get frustrated. You have to be patient. You have to learn the art, the virtue of patience if you have to be in the show business, because you can break down any moment. I don't even have to quote the kind of tragedies that have happened in the film industry, because people haven't got where they think they should have got to. For me, if you ask me, have I got to where I want to? No, I haven't. I have miles and miles and miles to go, and like I said, light years to go. But I am running, and that is important. Keep running. Don't stop. And you will find it. Ultimately, like I said, the journey is the most important thing. The journey of learning, the journey of improving yourself. When I see a lot of young kids these days, I worked with 6-year-olds as a filmmaker. I see that they're absolutely genial. They have something that we never had in our childhood, you know, and they pick up things so very easily. So if you are of this generation, I think you have it in your genes to, you know, work harder and, innovate more, improvise in a much better fashion, and get things going. And like I said, keep coming back to this, keep watching great performances, keep watching great films. Take them out from the archive, not necessarily the modern cinema. Go back to Bergman, go back to Truffaut, go back to, Renoir, go back to Kurosawa, or, all the greats who have made film, cinema what it is, and who have inspired me in spite of all the handicaps, in spite of all the disadvantages, to sort of, keep going, because cinema is such a great art, and the pleasure of, creating cinema or working on a performance is something unequaled. So if you love the art, if you love performing, then that is good enough for you to get into it. And during the journey, of course, there are so many pitfalls. You will be faced with minor successes. You will be faced with huge downfalls, and but there's always a comeback. Remember that. It's like a cricketer, a cricketer might go through a very bad phase, and he might be virtually out of the team, but there's always something in him to come back. It's like a tennis player. It's like all the greats in tennis who have come back from the brink of, extinction back to being number one. So there are examples in sports, there are examples all over the world. So follow those examples, keep them as references, because you can always, always, always get back, even if you're down, And that is something that you have to keep in mind when you're coming into this profession, because it's something that can really, really sort of, demoralize you, and overnight, put you into a state of depression. And that's a very dangerous state to be in. And I'm saying this because I've been through all this, and I have somehow managed to extricate myself slowly, surely, and finally make the kind of cinema I want to make. And that is where I'm coming towards the latter part of my journey, because when I started off in 2002 as a director in films with India's first retro musical called Dil Vil Pyar Vyar, which was a tribute to the published works of R.D. Burman. We used the published works of R.D. Burman to create a film, a romantic film. And of course, that was not what I wanted to do. It was a mainstream film, decently done with a lot of sensibility. But what I wanted to do was really emulate the greats from whom I had learnt, the greats who had inspired me to stick on to this profession. So when I started off, I did this very small experimental film. I think, yes, you can see that poster at the back. It was called Staying Alive. And it was about two patients in the ICCU of a hospital. One of them who had suffered his third heart attack and was laughing at death, because after 3 heart attacks, death became a joke. And the other guy was an underworld guy who had his first heart attack, and he was petrified of dying. And he was the guy who was dispensing death, and he was afraid of dying. And the relationship between these two, it was a chamber piece, as I call it. It was just inside the ICCU, and the wives bonding in the corridor outside. And what happens to these two characters at the end of the film. It was a 90-minute film. But that was what changed my life, because when I showed my brother Ravi that film, he saw this and he said, "You made this film?" I said, "Yes." If you made this film, what the hell are you doing making films like Dil Mange More and Aksar and Dil Vil Pyar Vyar and blah, blah, blue, blue? Is that what you want to do? Or is this what you want to do? And I realized that he had said it. He had said the ultimate truth. And everything changed for me after that. I made a film called Mee Sindhutai Sapkal, which was a biopic on a lady who picks up abandoned infants from the streets and gives them shelter. I did a film called Gour Dastaan, which was about probably one of India's last of the living freedom fighters in India, who fought for 4 years, almost his entire childhood, for the freedom of the country, and then almost his entire life, 35 years, to get a freedom fighter certificate, which was a mirror of what the system had come down to in India. And then I did a film called Rough Book, which was a very intrinsic look at, and a very critical look at the education system. Then came Dr. Rakmabai. Dr. Rakmabai, incidentally, is so relevant today because she was India's first practicing lady doctor in British India. And she broke all the rules. She went to England, became a doctor, fought the plague in Surat, and won the Kaisari Hind Award from the British. And hers was a very celebrated life. And between medicine and women empowerment, equal status for men and women, between fighting for these two, hers was a tumultuous journey. And that was a film I'm very proud, is a film I'm very proud about because it's quite an epic. And then, of course, the latest one, My Ghat, which ironically and uncannily is very relevant again, because after the George Floyd killing and the uprising against police brutality all over the world, this film is a true story about a boy who was killed in police custody, tortured to death in police custody, and the mother fought a legal battle for 13 long years. She was illiterate, she was uneducated, she was a poor washerwoman, and she fought for 13 years to get justice for her son. And she fought against the system. So My Ghat, that's the film, My Ghat, crime number 103 by 2005. That's my latest film. And so this is the kind of cinema I've been indulging in, fully knowing that this may not be palatable to the crores of the millions of people who want to watch cinema in India and all over the world. But it's also very important to know that everything that you do will not be liked by everyone or may not be for everybody. But you have to segregate your audiences. You have to get that tiny percentage. For example, in India, I don't think more than 4%. I mean, India, with its population, 4% of people watch cinema. So for me, 0.50% is what I am aiming at with this kind of cinema. I reach out to them, and the kind of response I get urges me on, spurs me on to continue making that kind of cinema. Because let me tell you, India, for all its largesse and the bigness of the film industry being the largest film industry in the world, is not necessarily the best film industry in the world. For the best, you got to go west, you got to go to Europe, you got to go further to the east, like Japan. So to be the best in the world is something I'm aiming for. I know I am looking at a very improbable target. I am at the same threshold as all of you are. You're all trying to get in and make a career. I'm trying to get in and make a mark on the global map of cinema, and try and make people abroad, outside India, understand that Indian cinema is not Hindi cinema, that Indian cinema is not to be scoffed at, and it can, generate some respect if we continue in this vein. So it's been a battle. It's been like virtually a Lone Ranger fighting a battle. Along the way, I've been lucky to get a few producers who believed in me and who invested. So there again, it was impossible. I mean, there was no way, logically, there was no way I could find finance for every film I make. The last film I made, I've just completed a film. I got the finance just 1 week before I went into production. But everything at the battlefront was ready except the weapons. And so once I got the weaponry, I went into battle and we finished that film. And I'll tell you about it much later, because that's the one I don't want to reveal right now. So that's how it is. If there's something magnetic about your passion, it actually draws people. And if your passion is strong, and if your urge is strong, and if your intentions are clear and honest, see, honesty is one of the most important qualities that you have to, whether it's performance, honesty in performance, or honesty in dealing with others, or honesty in just about being there. So if you're sincere and honest, and you have to be professional, absolutely professional. I don't think, because if I could do it, if I could make it, I tell you, if you guys have it in you, go ahead and do it. And if there's anything that I could do to help you out, to advise you what step to take, whether to do a particular film, not do a particular film, whether to go this way or that. I mean, I'm always there. I'll be glad to. I'll be delighted to sort of through Sonny to maybe reach out to you and help you. But remember, I always tell people that if I can do it, anybody can do it, because the odds were all stacked up against me. There was no way I could have, but there was something that still drove me, and something happened, and that's why I said, like a medical miracle, I am probably a showbiz miracle. So that's what it is in a nutshell. I think I've taken too much of your time. It's almost 40 minutes. So I will, sort of open this up now to the panel and to our guests. And I'd like to hear your views, and then we can go ahead and talk a lot and answer a lot of questions.
Wow. I think I just got a course in filmmaking, and I think this is the first time anybody has actually done something for free, and that is priceless. I mean, what the advice you imparted to us is absolutely priceless, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to put the different view on, and I would like for everybody who really enjoyed what Mr. Mahadevan said to show me a thumb and tell me what they felt about it. I mean, I'm absolutely I'm rarely speechless, but right now I'm absolutely.
Well, guys, you haven't seen anything yet.
No, not at all, sir. And I want to take a minute right now to recognize my co-host, Pooja Narang, who's the owner and founder of Bollywood Action Dance Studio in New York City, which is, she has choreographed multiple Bollywood films, and she also helps people of Indian origin and non-Indian origin learn Indian dance.
I'm so sorry, Pooja. I said very uncomplimentary things about the word Bollywood, but I stand by that.
You want to take a minute? All right. So with that said, we have a few pre-screened questions for Mr. Mahadevan, and both Pooja and I are going to alternate between each other. We're going to take these questions, and after that, we will take questions from the audience. So let's start with the very first question. I think you already answered it, sir, but I'm still going to ask you anyways. How does one break into the film industry? That's a very, very basic question. I think you already answered it, but if you want to take a few minutes.
Yes, there is one point I'd like to add, which I don't think I've said, because when when you look for a job, when you look for a career in the film industry, now the question is, the person asking this question, is he or she looking at a job in America, in the US, or is she looking at a job in India? If it is in the US, then she'd probably have to meet all the big studio guys and try and get parts that are written for non-American, non-white characters, which are quite a lot, because there are a lot of Indians there who have sort of made it to an international level, and there are quite a few names, like the actor in Life of Pi, Suraj. So if that is the case, then you got to really meet up with people there, and or with casting agencies and casting directors who actually run the show there, and try and give your tell them what you're about, and if there is a show reel, try and show them a show reel, a profile or pictures, and try and squeeze your way in. If it is India, it is quite a murky situation for newcomers coming down, and like I said, I've been through this, claiming to be actors, and even if you have it in you, they will not believe you. They'll probably push you around, and it could be quite a frustrating experience. So you got to be very careful where you sort of land up, where you take that first step, and that one step out of maybe 20 could work in your favor, and there you go. So that's what it is.
No, so you know, to that point, I would like to add that, you know, we recently lost Sushant Singh Rajput, who was actually an established actor, but he still, since he was not related to a major filmmaker or actor, he had such a hard time making it on his own. And I think he was a very talented actor, if you ask me. But if he couldn't succeed in the Indian cinema, then I guess, you know, for us, we need to make a, you know, a choice about if we want to pursue this.
No, I'd like to add something. You know, I'm sorry to interrupt. See, according to me, Sushant was a very successful actor. He had some very good films. He's done some very good films. They may have been heartbreaking moments. They may have been humiliating moments, which are always there. So the next thing, something I left out in my initial talk, is physical and mental discipline. You cannot afford to abuse your body. Remember, you are an entity on your own. No one can live your pain for you. No one can share your pain for you. No one can share your emotions with you. You're going to live with them. And if you do not have the mental strength to withstand all this, or the physical strength, you got to look after your physique. And physique is not getting into the gyms and you know, building those bodies and those six packs or whatever you know, these guys exhibit in every other Facebook post. It is what you do with your body, what you eat, what you drink, how you sleep, how long you sleep. It is totally medically driven. So you've got to be very careful what you do with your body, because the body is going to dictate the mind also. And a healthy mind and a healthy body is the most important trait for an actor. So I do not know what Sushant Singh was going through, whether he was really bipolar or whether he had some kind of, you know, clinical depression going within him. And because there was no reason for him to, you know, feel depressed or feel frustrated. And even if some kingpins of Bollywood had said anything to him, he being a very sensible person, he's one of the rare educated people we get in the film industry. Most of them haven't seen, you know, a graduation degree. And when he's so educated, when he's even interested in astronomy, and he has a telescope at home, and he was an engineer, and he won the physics Olympiad. Why would someone so qualified, in fact overqualified for the film industry, really get into something like this? It's very, very unfortunate, but it's again a red sign, a warning sign for all of us here. We've got to be very careful. The mind is so fragile and the mind is so strong. It can bend a spoon and it can break so easily that it can drive you to suicide. So be very careful. That is something you've got to sort of tone along with all your, you know, performing arts. So and that's what I wanted to say, because Sushant came into the picture.
Okay, I believe I'll take your response. I totally agree. But I, you know, still feel, I mean, I agree that he had clinical depression and some medical issues, and maybe he was not. But given the odds, right, from what I've been reading and what I've been hearing, he had projects that were taken away sort of from him. He may have signed some bad contracts, and this industry is pretty unforgiving from what I know. You know, people are all there.
Then in that case, me along with a lot of other people should have committed suicide long time.
Very true, very true. But I think it's maybe your personality that, you know, you are a creator and you've got other things going for you. Like, you know, you're a director and a writer, so you've got other things going for you in this industry. Maybe Sushant didn't have as much going for him. But one thing I do appreciate about you and about him is that you haven't picked any quarrels. You haven't really, you know, made any powerful enemies. I may be wrong, but this is what I think, that, you know, you guys were able to sustain yourselves. Whereas look at Vivek Oberoi, you know, his whole career was totally in tatters. It was destroyed. He was not able to go anywhere with his career because he picked a very powerful enemy. And for whatever reason it was, down the line, he proved himself to be an idiot because of his comments and what he said about Aishwarya Rai Bachchan. I didn't appreciate that. That was in very poor taste. But again, as an artist, his career was pretty much over when he picked a fight with Salman Khan. And I'm not ashamed of saying it, and I'm not, afraid of saying it. But in this industry, it pretty much, who your friends are is less important than who your enemies are. So you need to learn to make fewer enemies in the industry. And I think that's where maybe Sushant Singh was doing so well in his career. His level of acting was so good that he actually intimidated people, and maybe they wanted him gone. Who knows? But anyways, I'm going to move right along. I don't want to dwell over this thing. The next question I think Pooja is going to ask.
Yes, okay. So nowadays people are making a lot of films on their cell phones due to COVID-19. How do you see that affecting, or what do you see as the future of cinema because of this?
Given these dystopian times we are living in, and since the whole world was sort of, locked down, and including the performing arts and the theaters, whether they're live or otherwise, cinemas, it's very amusing because when you make films now after or during this COVID-19 situation, would you make films with people close to each other? Would you make films with a lot of crowds? And that's not because I'm not talking about the logistics. I'm talking about the realism. Would people actually accept two people close to each other, embracing, kissing, making love, making out? Or would people accept a whole crowd on Manhattan Street going to work, or in the subways? And would we accept that? Or do we have to go back to making period pieces, time bound this thing, so that we know that, oh, this is what happened before the COVID. So that's realism at that time. So that's a question that's really sort of, bothering me. So what people are going to do, I know there are 100 titles registered about the pandemic and coronas and the COVID, and people are going to talk about the migration, people are going to talk about the suffering, people are going to talk about the deaths, the politics, and all the tactics, and maybe even the conspiracy theories behind it. So we're going to be flooded with these kind of films, but I only hope it doesn't become an overdose of the corona or the COVID. So let's see, it's going to be an interesting phase. And again, now it's your thinking ability that comes into play. And it's like a chess game now. What is the move you're going to make? And what is the kind of film, movie you're going to make, And will that be palatable to audiences, or would you really come out with something so clever that people will say, oh hell, how the hell did he think of it? So that's something we're going to look forward to.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, Sonny, next question.
Yeah, so the next question, I think you have partially answered it, but I wanted to know, would you consider working with actors from the US and Canada in your projects, like future projects? I know you just completed one film, but would you consider any actors from this area for your projects? And if so, how would you, pick them? I mean, where would you do the casting from?
Well, you see, I have a very interesting theory when it comes to casting. I do not go for known faces of stars. In fact, in this film called Rough Book, there are a lot of students. And if you watch that film, it's on Amazon Prime. If you watch that film, what I did was I went to the radio club at Kolaba in Mumbai. I sat down there. I had my producer Vivek Vaswani call all the kids in South Bombay and just let them talk to me. So I was talking to each one of them, and merely by talking to them, you realize whether the man or the boy is aware, how aware is he, what is his physical attribute, what is his body language, what is his speech like, and you decide. And then I drop the bomb, I drop the mic and say, would you like to do a film? And I want to see the excitement, whether he says yes or whether he says no. And that is how I cast all the students in Rough Book. If you see them, they all look as though they have been in the business for 5 years or 10 years. The fact is that they've never seen a camera before in their lives. And I only did workshops with them, and they are such natural. So I, for one, would just like to go random, pick up a guy from the street, talk to him. And let me tell you, it is intelligence, it is awareness, and it is a basic presence of mind that makes an actor. Each one of us is an actor. We got to break the wall within ourselves. We got to break our body, and then you have an actor in you. So, and if you let me loose on you, and I can mold anyone I feel has the potential, and you'll have a whole new bunch of actors right there performing, and you won't believe your eyes that these are untrained actors. But that is how I work as a filmmaker. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be there talking to Hispanics, talking to Americans, black or white, or even Indians who settle down there, and or Asians, and create a film. Get a script and shoot a film, which would possibly be one of the most unique films, because it would be an all Hollywood film and made by an Indian. So why not? I would go for it.
Thank you. That's what we were looking to hear from you, because I think most actors in my group, I'm not sure if I told you about my group. I have a group on Facebook called the South Asian Artists in the US and Canada. And we have approximately around 2,500 artists of all kinds. We have actors, directors, producers, choreographers, dancers, singers, writers, painters. So what I'm trying to do is provide them a home where they can actually find some kind of guidance if they don't know how to start, how to get started, or if they need help with an audition process, or if they need help with meeting with an agent, a casting director or something. So I provide that, platform to them. And
I'm going to give you an idea. This is a bit commercial, but
sure.
Think about it. You don't have to react to it immediately. Let's say you get your funds through crowdfunding. We want a certain amount of money, and it's not going to be something that's going to burn a hole in everyone's pocket. And we collect a certain amount of money. We have a budget. We have a film that is mostly production friendly, and we try and be resourceful and get locations free, get a lot of other amenities sponsored or free, and we actually get going with actors. And I look for people who don't act. For me, the attribute for an actor is one who doesn't act, and that's the most important attribute. And I look for actors, I cast them, and you take off with your first film. It'll be your production. You are the producer, you hold the rights, you hold everything. I just write and direct the film, complete the film, and give it to you. You exploit it worldwide. And we see where we go from there. It will be a great start. It will be sort of, an impetus for all these people who are still looking for work, going around. You don't know how long it's going to take. What you do is put them together, get me there. I cast the right people for that particular script, take off, and that should be the leader or the light for so many other films to follow, which your budding directors and filmmakers should take over. So if you have one solid production going for you under your banner, under your company, I think that's the way. But if you could do some sourcing through crowdfunding, I think you'll have the money to do that.
So crowdfunding for so what, for the starting the project? You mean like putting together
the complete production?
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's a good script and with a good director, then that shouldn't be a problem, because there are people that I know and people that are associated with me who would love to do something like that. So you and I can probably speak about that offline. We are connected anyways. Excellent. Right. So I think the next question again is over to Pooja. If Pooja can jump in.
Yeah. Okay. So you make independent films. What is your strategy to release them? I mean, how do you find distribution?
It's quite tough when you end up making films that are not the formula films, that are not popular entertainment. And the entire multiplex system that has come up in India does not favor an offbeat film. does not favor independent cinema or cinema that speaks an international language, because they seem to think that these films are only made for the so-called art circuit. Now, I don't understand this word art and commercial at all. I feel that every film that you make, even if it sells one ticket, it becomes a commercial film. And everyone makes films so that people watch it. They make films so that the maximum number of audiences all over the world watch it. No one makes cinema as an indulgence. No one makes cinema as something very, very personal. So, but it's very difficult to try and explain this to these people, because they would rather go in for the big ticket entertainers rather than, and it's very ironical because multiplexes were set up to actually promote the different kind of cinema. They have 6 screens or 14 screens or 10 screens, depending on the size of each property. And they still do not feel it meet to reserve the smallest 100-seater for a film of this kind of merit every week. And that's the sad part. And we fight our way through, and we get shows that are not primetime shows. And we end up, literally not, going the way we want to. And that has always been a bane for, the more global a film you make, the more difficult it is for you to find a distributor here. So finally, since the OTT platforms have come in, and the festival circuits do acknowledge our presence, there is a lot of reputation, a lot of your stocks go up heavily, and that is what keeps you going, even though you may not get a regular distribution network to or reach out to as many people. And the tragedy of it is that when people see Gour, Dastaan or Rough Book on Netflix or an Amazon, they get back to you and say, "Oh my God, how did we miss this film? We find it so moving. It's a masterpiece." So no one bothered to go to the cinemas, because the cinemas didn't bother to give us the right show timings. And it's a constant ongoing battle that we are fighting. And I do not know how this is going to be resolved, but it seems that there is nemesis striking, and suddenly the multiplexes are all closed, and everyone, even the big ticket filmmakers, are going on to the OTT platforms. Only recently, a Bachchan starrer has come on Netflix, on Amazon. So I think somewhere nature will level, and it'll make it a level playing field for all of us. But till now, it's been very tough.
Excellent. Thank you so much, sir. That's an excellent one. So now we have our final 3 questions because of the shortage of time. So we're going to start with Saju. Saju, you want to proceed with your question?
Sure, Sonny. Thank you so much. Anand sir, it's really an honor to have a conversation with you about what you think about movies and all your works and everything. It's really a great experience. I have 2 questions. Basically, this you might have answered bits and parts answer these 2 questions basically. So, but I just want to kind of channelize to some few specific areas. The first is generally in a movie, there is a general norm that there should be an antagonist and a protagonist should win over antagonist, or a protagonist should always solve the issue. Do you think we can still have a good story or a good story for movies by breaking these so-called mentioned norms? And that's one question. And the second is, how far has Bollywood come from the conventional movie, that is the so-called masala movie, like, or the commercial movie you call, to a more realistic movie so far? Thank you.
Saju, where are you from?
I'm basically from Kerala.
Evde?
Chennai, Kottayam district.
Chennai, naatlu.
Yes. And I'm also fortunate. I got a chance to work as an assistant director for Rajiv Nath in his last movie.
ഞാനിപ്പോ ഒരു മലയാളം ഫിലിം ചെയ്തു, ലാൽ സാറിന്, ജീതു ജോസഫ് and Mohanlal. I did a guest appearance in a film called Ram. So
the shooting, the shooting is,
that's still going on.
Yeah,
so okay, coming to your first question of protagonist and antagonist. See, these are stereotypes, and it's about time we got away from this. All my films, the ones I mentioned, Sindhutai or Gour, Dastaan, they did not have, the antagonist was either the system or elements of nature or several other things. There was, these heroes and villains are now confined to the Marvel comic books, and we love watching them. There has to be Superman, Batman, and there has to be the Joker. So that's fine. But when you make films of another genre, and when you try to break away from this, you find that the protagonist need not necessarily win in the end. For him, the journey is more important than the destination. And which it is for me too, and for all of us, it's going to be the same. Because the journey I had in making these films has been much, much more fruitful and enjoyable and memorable than the destination itself. Like Pooja asked, did you find the destination? Did you get it to the cinemas? So even though you may not have got it to the cinemas, you realize that your entire journey, the creative process was so wonderful that it didn't matter whether you reached your destination or not. So for me, most of my protagonists haven't reached their destination. They have their open endings, but they leave you with a catharsis. They leave you with an elation and an uplifting feel, which is more important than actually beating up a villain. And because, that's predictable. You know that the villain is going to die. You know that the villain will have an upper hand somewhere in the middle of the movie. And then, of course, the hero comes and beats the daylights out of him. So that's all passé now. And I don't think, filmmakers, of course, they all still indulge in that. I mean, that's what they feel gets in the moolah. But coming to the second part, your second question is overlapping this first one. As to, does Hindi cinema still do the masala entertainment? Yes, it does. The last time we did not do it was when two people broke the mold, two people called Govind Nilani and Shyam Benegal. They broke the mold with some great films like Ankur and Nishant and Manthan, and then, of course, Ardha Satya and Akrosh. But they were the last of the Mohicans, I would say, who really brought in the different sort of feel to a new wave into Hindi cinema. What's happening now is, although there's a lot of people who are trying to do a lot of new things, they're all half-baked, and all these youngsters, and they are over-influenced by Tarantino and Scorsese, and what you find in their films is mostly bloodletting and the kind of abusive language and violence that they feel is going to shake up a lot of people, but it doesn't. It actually repulses you. So we are at a stage of Hindi cinema where we need a revolution, a bloody thinking revolution, not a bloody physical revolution. And in a very small, in a very humble way, I am trying to achieve a small percentage of that, if I'm allowed to. And I always look for a producer who lets me make the films that I will not be allowed to make. So as long as I'm allowed to do that, maybe I'll get somewhere. But we are fighting for Indian cinema. It's no longer Hindi cinema, because the language has just become a subtitle all over the world. Cinema is cinema, and that's the language we follow.
Yeah, thank you. And Sonny, if I could, I just made recently a short film, and it's been going for a lot of film festivals. I've bagged a couple of awards also. So I would like to send that link to Sonny, and Sonny, if you could give that link to
Sure.
Sir, if you could give your valuable
you could add it in you can even add it in this chat window right now, but please send it to me offline and I'll forward it over to him. Not a problem at all.
And
sure, Saju. I'll be delighted to watch that. No, it's valuable or not, I do not know, but I'll be delighted to watch it, and we'll exchange notes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. So now, next up is Meeraji. Meeraji has a question.
I had several questions, but you kept answering them. So I'm modifying them even as you speak.
I'm a mind reader, I read your mind.
It's scary. Yes, you do. And going back, we discussed at length when you were here about your wanting to come. If we have a good script and the production in place, you want to come and direct it. the way, and if anybody hasn't watched Anantji's films, I would highly recommend, especially Dr. Rakhmabai, if it's there on Amazon, I don't know.
No,
Loved it.
it's still not there on the OTT platform, but since the COVID situation is demanding it, because she was a hero of her time, and today the medical profession is the hero of our time. So the film cannot be more timely. So we are hoping that we hit an OTT platform, and very soon I'll let you know.
Yeah, good luck. And Rough Book, if you haven't watched, it's just in DC when it was screened, everybody in the audience was just going gaga over it and wanted to do something about the education system in India. So that being said, my modified question now is, I mean, you did describe the generic aspects of what one must have when you don't have genetic connections and inheritance and nepotism working in your favor. But what is one specific thing that as a performer you need to have to persist in this environment and survive? And the second question is about your book that you just released, and I'm waiting for the hard copy that's going to come on soon, July 15th, you said. So thank you.
Yes, like I said, perseverance and confidence. That's something that will carry you through this whole quagmire of nepotism or demoralization or, rejections, humiliations, whatever you have to go through. It's the confidence that you have in yourself. And the confidence comes only when you know your job. This, again, I keep repeating this. You know your job. It's not overconfidence. Please be very, very careful. It's a very thin line. You think you know, but you do not know. But if you are honest to yourself and you are very, very clear that your knowledge cannot be matched or replaced, and it will lead you somewhere, then don't give up. Don't ever give up, because you will get the chance, and it will come from the most unexpected quarters. So perseverance and confidence, these are the two virtues. As far as the book is concerned, yes, here's the book, and 15th of July is what it's the first book on Indian television, because I have been fortunate enough to go through the entire gamut of sponsored television, right from the time 83 when it came in, right up till today, either as a writer or as a director. And I have come across all the filmmakers who went into television, and that was the golden period of Indian television. It was a great time when filmmakers decided to take up a medium that they were not familiar with, and they came up trumps. Although we may not talk very highly of the technical quality in those days, because the kind of computer graphics weren't available in those decades of the 80s and the 90s. But the kind of substance and the kind of material that they provided is still spoken about and remembered. So this is what the book is about, paying tribute to the founding fathers of Indian television, then coming down the ages to right up till today, the satellite channels and the OTT platforms that have transformed television into another, the monstrosity that has taken over television. And is television the same, or does television exist at all today, is the question that I ask and analyze. So that's what the book is. It's part autobiographical, part technical, part document. So it puts together a lot of things that could be a reference book, could be a story book, and it could just be interesting reading material for people who love reading. So that's why I call it Once Upon a Prime Time, because it all seemed once upon now, and today it's not what it used to be.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that answer, sir. And I think now there are two questions, and that's it. We are going to call it an evening after that. The next question is from Anand Rao. Hey, Anand.
Hi. Hey, Sonny, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you keep your eyes on the road, man.
All right. Okay. Anant, thank you very much. This is a great opportunity to listen to you. An extremely informative session. And the question I had, my name is Anand Rao. I'm a writer. And a writer like me living here in the US, when I write an Indian story, because that's the only stories I'm qualified to write. I write from my experiences. So when I write a script or a story and I expect it to be produced to American standards, and it does not have to, but there appears to be an unwritten rule that any Indian story has to be produced in India by an Indian company. Though we have had past examples of international blockbusters like Gandhi or Slumdog Millionaire or many others that have been in Indian stories but produced to Hollywood standards and which have become universal hits. And connected to that question is the American Indians or South Asians of living outside of India are purely viewed as consumers of content produced in India, as opposed to being creators of content. Do you think there can be a change anytime going forward, and what do you recommend to affect those changes?
One of us has to break that rule, you know. We've got to break that so-called belief, that norm. And if you have a story that is not something that has been done before, that's not a repeat of something that has been done before, and if you feel it's something unique and you have touched upon, a social aspect, like if you see Asghar Farhadi's The Separation, it touches upon the question of divorce of two people and what happens to their lives. And that became such an internationally acclaimed Oscar-winning film because it touched the human, element so beautifully. And if you have these kind of human stories that are, maybe inspired by real-life incidents, there is no reason why we shouldn't get together and make that film. And let it be known that Americans are not consumers anymore, and that they're creators and producers. And that is where somebody has to take the pioneering effort and break that jinx and do it, because unless we get together and do it, it's not going to happen. And it can be done. Let me tell you, it can be done and done well.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much. That's a great thing to hear. And I hope you would be open for such collaborations.
I would. All I need is all I ask for in a film is an outstanding script. That's all I need to keep me driving faster than you are driving at the moment.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Anant. Thank you for your question. All right, sir. So the last question of the evening is going to come from Pragati Kolaj.
Hi.
Hi, Pragati.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
I have one question. It's regarding. You answered actually one question regarding the actors from the USA or like out of the India who are interested to work in the movie, like Indian movie. But my question is a little different. Like, what is the platform or what is the way or how people will reach to Indian industry if they want to work as an assistant director with different like good directors like you and like other. So what's the way? Because I ask this question because I'm personally interested to work as an assistant director with like established director because of the different aspects to learn. It's just for learning process. So what do you suggest for me?
So I'm going to interject for a minute. So Pragati, that question I think is not appropriate for this forum because there are so many different people, and I feel that your question is more like asking about how to sort of solicit a position. Unless Mr. Mahadevan wants to answer, I mean, I have no problem.
Let me add a little to that. Let me not dishearten the lady. See, that's the most important thing. Never dishearten anyone because. You probably she would stop right there and not ask that question to anyone anymore. So if you are familiar with the filmmaking process, if you are not there only for the learning, because let me tell you, the bad news is that people don't take interns anymore that way, or even if they take interns, they so push them away onto far away from the location only to make sure that the traffic is stopped so that the sync sound is not affected. So I don't think you want to do that. So if you do have some knowledge of filmmaking, some experience of filmmaking, I'm sure you would come out, more qualified and more efficient than some assistant directors here. So if you have that going for you, then it shouldn't be difficult because I'm sure a lot of directors are looking for assistants who take the burden, who take the load off their back. and who would even probably do the thinking for them because they are not very good at that. So if you can actually put yourself in their shoes and start familiarizing yourself with the filmmaking process and learn up a few things of basically what a script is, how do you break down a script, how do you make a schedule, how do you cast, what are the characters, and how do you, deal with actors, then that might go in your favor. But if you're a total novice and you're trying to start from scratch, that might be a little difficult.
No, I respect your answer. Like, I thank you for answering my question. I did a little I tried one film, and like that film, your film and my film was together in Washington DC's film festival. Actually, I received Best Actress awards when your film received Best Movie there. I have that experience, but still I had wish I want to learn more. I want to get other aspects. So that was this question. I'm sorry, Sonny.
No, not at all. Let me tell you, there are a few institutes. There is a New York filmmaking school, and there is a school in Los Angeles. Just go ahead and sort of enroll for a course. It will going to teach you all the fundamentals, and when you come out, you will be a much more knowledgeable person, probably more qualified to do be an assistant director or then turn a director later.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry to interject, but I have watched Palyadwasi. It's on Amazon now. It was made by Pragati, her first film. She grew up with these people. Palyadwasi is the mountain dwellers. They are the nomads and gypsies who roam around. And if you get a chance, please watch it on Amazon. I have nothing to do with Pragati. I just met her at DC SAF, and this is nothing personal, but it's a very heart-wrenching movie.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I know of it. Pragati, that was your film?
Yeah, that was my film. I directed, and I got Best Actress awards. And I think we have photo together, you and me, with
You directed that film?
Yeah, I directed that film. I was very learned.
Why do you want to become an assistant director? You should be a filmmaker, a full-fledged filmmaker in your own right. You're asking the wrong question.
No, I still feel I need to get more different aspects, different just for learning process. I mean
that's a good thing that we are all learning. I'm learning too. I'm still learning, and it's a great thing. Tomorrow, if Majid Majidi or Asghar Farhadi comes down and makes a film in India, I would love to assist him too. It's a good thing that you feel that you are not qualified. That's always a good feeling, and keep that up and go ahead and make films.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for that, sir. And I think, if anybody has any questions, they can forward them to me, and I can ask Mr. Mahadevan on the side, because I think during the call, we need to respect everybody's time. And I think we've already taken up enough of his time. It's almost for him, it must be 11 p.m. now for you?
It's 10:30.
10 p.m.
10:20.
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep you any longer. I'm sure that you are probably exhausted because you've been speaking at length.
I'll let you into a secret. Anything to do with filmmaking and with performing, you can make me talk. You can make me perform. You can make me work throughout the night, and I won't be exhausted. That's the kind of energy that it pumps into you, and that is the kind of passion you need. So please do not apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. I think there are some people are asking questions on the side right now, but I think what we will do is we are gonna ask you on the side. I'm gonna take these questions from all of these people and send them over to you on the side, so that way at least we don't keep you any longer.
Sure.
But I must thank you, sir, from the bottom of my heart, and from the entire community, the filmmaker community from New York.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate. If you were here, I would give you a big hug.
You're not supposed to,
Yeah, social distance.
COVID-19. Yes. That's what I'm saying. This is a virtual hug.
And also thank you, Sonny, for bringing Anand sir in front of us like this. And
I have to thank Haider Bilgrami, because it was not me. It was Haider Bilgrami who brought.
It was a great experience.
Yes.
Thank you
so much. And all you lovely people, thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you.
And let's hope one day we catch up and we make a film together. So
Or we could do another one of these meetings if you're up for it, because I think there are other people kicking themselves that they missed this, and they are saying, when are you going to do the next one? So if you're up for it, we will pick another day and time, and we
could work that out. That's not a problem.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So much.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Good night,
Bye.
sir.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.